practice problems for lesson 4. In this first problem, there are 3 different pairs of figures labeled P and Q, and you are asked to go through a sequence of transformations to move P to Q. Either translation, reflection, rotation, and a combination thereof. So you're going to go through a sequence of transformations, so more than one. So how do you get from P to Q? Well, the translation, you can move P right next to Q and move point A over A prime by moving figure P 2 of these units, these diamond units, so 2 equilateral triangles put together. So 1, 2, and then 1 unit up. So we'll call this a unit going up as well. So then it's not really a good idea. Let's call this, well, yeah, it doesn't work either way. So we'll call it 2 units this way and 1 unit up. And what happens then, because everything has to go through that same translation or transformation, every other point is going to move 2 units to the right, 1 unit up. 2 units to the right, 1 unit up. 2 units to the right, 1 unit up. So you move that, and then you can connect the corresponding points. Now, if you could think about it, if you could figure out how to do that, you could just slide figure P up at an angle to fit over its corresponding, actually it becomes a base of a prism, if you remember that. Alright, so to see that prism, you can add some color. So a translation, a copy of the original figure is a translated copy of the base. So a prism is a translated copy of the base, and then the corresponding sides are connected with parallelograms. And so here I colored it all in. And so the next step then is, you could go through a couple of things, but one possibility is to rotate this red figure now over so it covers Q, like that. So that's going to be a 60-degree rotation. And I'm going to show you how I know that in just a second. You can kind of look here. This is the edge of the equilateral triangle, and this edge is going to go to here. So that is 60 degrees. I have a little bit more detail. Oh, that's right there. So this edge is going to go right to there. That's 60 degrees. So we're going to rotate the red figure 60 degrees to fit on top of the pink figure. Now you can check it after you do the rotation. You can check it by counting. So you can count up one side of the equilateral triangle, and then I'm going to count in the direction of rotation. That's going to count 1 unit. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Just going to count to B prime and B prime this way. So you count up 2 units to B prime, and so then you rotate this 60 degrees, and you count 2 units, and you end up with at B prime as well. To check the rest of them, I'm going to remove the coloring so you can see what's going on. To check D, I'm going to go up the side of the equilateral triangle 2 units, 1, 2, and then I'm going to count in the direction of rotation 1 unit. Now I'm going to rotate this 60 degrees. That's not the figure I'm rotating 60 degrees, although that does get rotated. It's really, I'm looking at this side of the equilateral triangle that rotates 60 degrees from here to right here. Then I'm going to count 1, 2, and then in the direction of rotation 1 unit. So D prime does land in the proper spot, and C is just 1 unit beyond that. C is just 1 unit beyond that. So everything works, everything fits. Now you could do this rotation as just without the translation, so just a single rotation to move the blue figure P to the pink figure Q. And to do that, you got to find the center of rotation. That's going through figuring out what the corresponding, or connecting the corresponding points, so A to A prime, find the midpoint, draw a perpendicular line in this direction, and you're going to find that all 4 of those, when you do that for all 4 of them, they are going to intersect at the center of rotation. So here's A to A prime, B to B prime, C to C prime, and D to D prime. I'm going to show you these individually. So A to A prime, and this is a perpendicular line from the midpoint. Now to locate the midpoint, remember in Docere, if you snap a line to this line, it will snap, it will stick right at the midpoint, and that identifies the midpoint for you. And then to draw a perpendicular line, you're just going to search for an intersection. You're going to go from point to point until you find one that looks like this is a right angle. Turns out it's right there. And do that again in this way, and it goes to the same point. C to C prime from the midpoint, perpendicular line, goes to the same point, and the same with D to D prime. All right, figure B. You have to take the blue P figure and transform it a couple of times, so a sequence of transformations, so it lays on top of the Q figure. So I have a little video here for you. So I'm going to just copy it. If you're working in Docere, you can just grab it, translate P down. It's right there. And then rotate it 60 degrees. And you're going to end up right there. And the last thing, so this is a 60-degree rotation. So I rotate it from one edge of the equilateral triangle to the other edge. So that's 60 degrees. And then to reflect it, you're going to connect the corresponding points across the line of reflection. So this is the line of reflection right here. And those, you connect the corresponding points, they form right angles. And then you're going to measure the same distance on each side of the line of reflection. I'm going to show you that right now. So there, the figure is translated, rotated, and then we're going to reflect it. Oh, this is rotating it all in one, as one single transformation. So again, you have to find the center of rotation. So you have to draw a line, connect the corresponding points. You get all of these lines, then find the midpoint, draw the midpoint at a right angle for each one of them, and they will all intersect at the center of rotation. I'm not going to go through that in detail right now, once again, but this I do want to take a moment with. So you're going to connect the corresponding points. They form a right angle with the line of reflection. Then you have to measure an equidistant on each side, an equal distance on each side. So this is one of those diamond shapes, and on the other side it's one of the diamond shapes. This is a half of the shape. This is a half of the shape to go from C to C prime. And A to B to B prime. It's also forms a right angle with the line of reflection, and it's one half of that diamond or an equilateral triangle. All right, the next one, this is part C. So you have to slide P over to Q, and it's actually going to go through a reflection to get P to lay right on top of figure Q. So you slide it over, connect the corresponding points, and then you measure an equal distance from one point to the line of reflection, and then it's an equal distance from that line of reflection to its corresponding point. And so you're going to reflect it over. So I have another little video for you. I'm going to slide it down. That's a translation. And then you connect the corresponding point, and then you find this point. If it wasn't there, you'd find that point by measuring an equal distance on the other side of the line of reflection. Okay, another reflection. This is the next, actually this is problem 2. Problem 2 says, reflect this figure over the line of reflection, which is L. So reflect that figure over L. And I have a little video for you. Now, in Docere, you need to use right angles. You can draw right angles in Docere. You can draw a horizontal line. It will snap to a horizontal line, and it will snap to a vertical line. That forms a right angle. Then you can use that to figure out where the corresponding points are going to be. So I take that right angle and I line it up with B, and I place a point there. Take that same right angle. Remember, the lines that connect the corresponding points are right angles with the line of reflection. Line it up with D. So all I'm doing is figuring out where to place that point, and then I'm going to draw those lines. All right, so now connect the point with the line, with the same point on the line of reflection. Do the same thing for C. Do the same thing for D. And for A, I have to change color, because A is going to go right over the line from C. Now I can grab those lines and move them over to the other side. That's the distance. It's the same distance. I'm going to move C over. I'm sorry, this is actually A. It's the same distance. And then move C over. So that's where C goes, and the other one was where A goes, and the last one is where D goes. So I'm going to slide that. That measured the distance for me. It forms a right angle, so I know where to place it, and I know how far to go. So place those points. So that point right there is an equal distance on each side of the line of reflection from its corresponding point. Now I can barely see the red line behind there. I can see where it is to place the point. So you just have to go through this, practice several times. You will start to understand what to do. All right, so now I'm going to connect all those points. Actually, I'm going to get rid of a bunch of stuff. I don't need it anymore. Those lines just help me figure out where to place the points. So cut those out of there. So this is all in Docere. So if you get used to working with Docere, you can do this work in that app, which is great. So connect the points. And then get rid of the rest of the stuff I don't need anymore. And there you have it. So that is the first figure reflected over the line of reflection, which is L, ends up on the other side. Now, the fun thing about doing this is you can add some color to it. So you take those lines where you've connected the corresponding points and come up with some way of coloring it, and you can get a variety of designs. So here's the quadrilaterals right here. This one got reflected over here, and then I made copies of it, and it turns out that this quadrilateral, I don't know if you can see it in there, got reflected over here, and this quadrilateral got reflected over here. So a bunch of stuff to do, and this is where you just kind of sit back and play around with it and see what images you can come up with just by coloring. All right, the last problem. This is taking this image, A, B, C, D, so another quadrilateral, and rotating it 3 different times. The first time is to rotate it counterclockwise 30 degrees. So here it is right here, around B, by the way. So now I'm going to rotate it 30 degrees counterclockwise. Well, if here is a key over here, so 30 degrees is half of an equilateral triangle. It's right there, a little bit hard to see. So 30 degrees is going to be half this equilateral triangle. You look right down here. Instead of going the whole way, which would be 60 degrees, you're only going to go half. That's 30 degrees. And then 90 degrees in a clockwise direction. So 90 degrees is the 60 degrees. That's the whole equilateral triangle. 60 degrees plus another half. So 60 plus 30 is 90. So that's going to form a right angle. So 60 plus 30 is 90. If you look at this line very carefully from here to here, you can convince yourself that does form a right angle. And then finally 120 degrees. Well, that's two of these equilateral triangles. So there's one equilateral triangle and then a second equilateral triangle. And it's right here, 60 degrees plus another 60 degrees. So that angle is going to be 120 degrees. This is all about just getting you used to these angles, rotations, how you work with them. So let's look at the first one. So if I take this figure, so I'm doing this in Docere now, I'm just grabbing the figure and rotating. I didn't take a video of it, but you just rotate it around point B until this side, side right here, the quadrilateral, lines up with the 30-degree angle, which you already drew. That's the point about using the grid. This is not given to you on a grid in the homework assignment. I actually put it on this grid so I could show measuring 30 degrees, 90 degrees, and 120 degrees. So this is a 30-degree rotation. All the other points go with it. All the other points rotate 30 degrees. This is a 90-degree rotation. So if you look at point C, it's going to travel 30 degrees to get right here. So look down here, and then another 60 degrees to end up at the 90-degree rotation. Again, if you look at this angle, so I made these thick lines for you to see. If you look at this angle from here to here, it's 90 degrees. So you just turn that, so the center of rotation, they tell you they want it to be B. And the last one's 120 degrees. So this figure is just going to, in a clockwise direction. So this figure is just going to go a little bit farther and end up here. So C is just going to continue to rotate. So this edge ends up right here. And that's what happens next. So C continues to rotate and ends up right here. So this is a 120-degree rotation. So if you look at C here, it's rotating 120 degrees until it ends up right here. And every other point goes with it. D also rotates 120 degrees. A also rotates 120 degrees. Everything has to rotate the same amount. Now I gave you these two, I gave you this image in a file folder that you can download and use, and also this image. The difference between both, and you can't see that I'm flipping between them, but one of them has all of the outside removed as a background, and the other one has both the outside and the inside, so you can actually see the grid through this, which is the one that I used. So you can use those images. They're available to you in a file folder, and that is, the link is in the text below this video.